Hello everyone, and welcome to my Beyond the Gates official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The walls of Fairmont Crest seem to close in as Beyond the Gates detonates one of its most emotionally devastating storylines yet, delivering a second, almost unbearable blow to the community when it is revealed that Nicole, long regarded as the emotional backbone and quiet strength of her family, is also battling cancer. A revelation that comes just days after the town was still reeling from Anita's worsening condition, creating a cruel symmetry that no one could have imagined, and even fewer are prepared to survive. Because this is not just another illness plot but a seismic shift that fractures relationships, exposes buried guilt, and forces every character to confront the fragile illusion of control they cling to so desperately. The shocking truth begins to surface during what was meant to be a routine follow-up appointment, one Nicole nearly skipped because she was too busy supporting everyone else, too busy being the listener, the fixer, the woman who holds hands in hospital corridors and whispers reassurances she herself does not believe. But when the test results arrive and the doctor's face changes, the silence in the room becomes louder than any scream, and in that moment Nicole realizes that the fatigue she brushed off, the unexplained pain she dismissed as stress, the weight she carried in her chest was not just emotional, but something far more insidious. Something growing quietly while she was focused on saving others. The diagnosis is delivered with clinical calm, but it lands like a grenade. And Nicole's first instinct is not fear for herself, but terror for what this will do to her family, especially with Anita already fighting for her life. Because how does one family survive 2 wars at once? How does a mother, sister, friend admit she is also breaking when everyone else is already shattered? And so Nicole does what she has always done. She keeps it to herself, at least at first, choosing silence as armor, believing she can manage this the same way she manages everything else, alone and composed. But secrets have a way of rotting from the inside, and the longer Nicole hides her diagnosis, the more it poisons her relationships, especially with those closest to her who sense something is wrong but cannot name it, leading to moments of tension that feel small on the surface, yet pulse with unspoken dread. Like when her partner notices her wincing as she stands, or when her voice trembles just slightly during a family argument that spirals out of control, and all the while the audience is screaming at the screen, knowing what the characters do not, watching Nicole smile through pain that is no longer just emotional but cellular, relentless and unforgiving. The eventual revelation comes not through a dramatic confession but through heartbreakingly mundane circumstances, when a misplaced medical file is discovered and the truth spills out in a hospital hallway already soaked in tears, and the reaction is explosive. Because the family feels betrayed not just by fate but by Nicole herself, by her decision to carry this alone, with accusations flying that she doesn't trust them, that she robbed them of time, of preparation, of the chance to be there for her the way she has always been there for them. And Nicole, finally stripped of her composure, breaks down in a raw, gut-wrenching moment where she admits she was afraid. Afraid that if she let herself be the patient instead of the caregiver, everything would fall apart, afraid that her illness would be the final straw for a family already stretched beyond its limits, afraid that she would become a burden instead of a pillar. And this confession cracks open a deeper conversation about worth, sacrifice, and the toxic expectation that strength means silence, an expectation Nicole has lived under her entire life. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of her diagnosis extend far beyond her immediate circle, sending shockwaves through Fairmont Crest as old rivalries are temporarily set aside, unlikely alliances form, and even the most hardened characters are forced to confront their own mortality, with some stepping up in unexpected ways and others revealing an inability to cope, choosing denial or escape over confrontation, exposing fractures in marriages, friendships, and moral compasses that have long been hidden beneath polite smiles and designer facades. Particularly devastating is the parallel drawn between Nicole and Anita's battles, as scenes cross. Cut between their treatments, their moments of weakness, their whispered fears in the dark. underscoring the cruel irony that the two women have spent years supporting everyone else only to find themselves fighting side by side in a war they never volunteered for, and yet their approaches could not be more different, with Anita vocalizing her rage and despair while Nicole internalizes hers, creating a poignant contrast that deepens both storylines and raises haunting questions about which approach is braver, which is more honest, and whether either is enough to save them. As the weeks unfold, Nicole's cancer journey becomes less about the disease itself and more about the emotional reckoning it forces, with long-buried secrets coming to light as she reevaluates her life, her choices, and the compromises she made to keep peace at the expense of her own happiness, leading to quiet, devastating moments where she confronts former lovers, estranged friends, and even enemies, not with anger, but with a clarity born of knowing time is no longer an infinite resource, and these scenes are written with a restrained intensity that allows the performances to shine, proving that Beyond the Gates understands that true drama does not always need shouting matches or slaps, but can live in a look held too long, a sentence left unfinished, a goodbye that sounds suspiciously final. At the same time, not everyone responds to Nicole's illness with compassion, as opportunistic characters exploit the vulnerability it creates, manipulating situations to gain power, sympathy, or leverage, reminding viewers that even in the face of mortality, ambition and cruelty do not simply disappear, and this darker undercurrent adds tension to every hospital visit and family gathering, as viewers are left questioning who can truly be trusted and whether kindness is genuine or performative. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of the storyline is Nicole's gradual acceptance that she cannot control the outcome, that no amount of planning or emotional labor will guarantee survival, forcing her to finally ask for help in ways she never has before, and these moments, where she allows herself to be held, to be angry, to be afraid, are where the show reaches its emotional peak, transforming Nicole from a symbol of quiet resilience into a fully realized, painfully human character whose struggle resonates far beyond the confines of the screen. By positioning Nicole's cancer diagnosis as the second shocking blow rather than an isolated twist, Beyond the Gates elevates the narrative into a meditation on cumulative grief, on how tragedies stack rather than replace one another, testing not just individuals but entire communities. And as the storyline continues to unfold, the question is no longer simply whether Nicole will survive, but how everyone around her will be changed by walking through this fire with her, because in Fairmont Crest, no battle is ever fought alone, no secret stays buried forever, and no one emerges from the gates unchanged, making. As Beyond the Gates pushes even deeper into the emotional aftermath of Nicole's devastating diagnosis, the storyline refuses to slow down, instead tightening its grip as the consequences of her illness begin to reshape the power dynamics, emotional bonds, and moral choices of everyone connected to her. Because cancer in this world is never just a medical condition, it is a truth serum, a reckoning, a spotlight that exposes who people really are when the illusion of endless tomorrows is ripped away. And nowhere is that more evident than in the way Nicole's family fractures and reforms around her, with some members becoming fiercely protective to the point of suffocation while others retreat in fear, unable to cope with the possibility of losing the woman who has always been their emotional safety net. Tensions explode when difficult treatment decisions must be made, forcing Nicole to confront not only her own mortality, but the uncomfortable reality that everyone suddenly has an opinion about her body, her pain, and her future, leading to heated arguments where love and control become dangerously intertwined, and Nicole, weakened physically yet sharper than ever emotionally, begins to push back, asserting boundaries she never dared to draw before, a shift that shocks those who are used to her quiet compliance and signals a profound transformation underway. Meanwhile, the hospital becomes a second stage for the drama, a place where whispered conversations in sterile hallways carry as much weight as confrontations in lavish living rooms, and it is here that unexpected connections form, as characters who once had no reason to cross paths now share waiting room silences, stolen coffee breaks, and confessions that feel too heavy to carry alone, weaving new emotional threads that promise future complications long after the medical crisis has passed. Nicole's illness also reignites old wounds, particularly with those who feel they wasted time with her, former lovers haunted by unresolved goodbyes, estranged relatives grappling with guilt over years of distance, and friends who realize too late that they took her constancy for granted, resulting in emotionally charged scenes where apologies collide with regret and forgiveness is sought not as absolution but as a desperate attempt to rewrite the past. At the same time, darker forces continue to circle, as certain characters quietly calculate how Nicole's vulnerability might shift inheritances, business control, and social standing, proving that even tragedy can be weaponized in Fairmont Crest, and this undercurrent of opportunism adds a chilling layer to scenes that might otherwise be purely sentimental, keeping viewers on edge as they question motives behind every comforting gesture and sympathetic tear. Particularly haunting is Nicole's evolving relationship with Anita, as the two women, now bound by shared suffering, become mirrors for one another, their late-night conversations revealing fears they never voiced before, including the terror of being forgotten, of becoming defined solely by illness, and of leaving unfinished emotional business behind. And these moments are written with aching intimacy, turning hospital rooms into confessional spaces where truths long buried finally surface. As Nicole's physical strength ebbs and flows, so too does her emotional resolve, leading to episodes where hope surges and others where despair threatens to swallow her whole. And the show does not shy away from the uglier aspects of this journey: her anger at her body for betraying her, her resentment toward the healthy, her shame over moments of weakness, grounding the storyline in raw authenticity that elevates it beyond melodrama. Perhaps most transformative is the way Nicole's diagnosis forces her to reevaluate her legacy, prompting her to make bold, sometimes shocking decisions that ripple outward, from rewriting wills and entrusting secrets to unlikely confidants, to confronting long-standing lies that can no longer be left unresolved, because the possibility of limited time strips away patience for pretense, and Nicole emerges as a woman determined to be honest, even when that honesty hurts. As the community rallies around her in public displays of support, the private battles intensify, with marriages tested, friendships strained, and loyalties questioned under the pressure of constant uncertainty, reinforcing the show's central theme that crisis does not create character but reveals it. By weaving Nicole's cancer journey into every corner of the narrative, Beyond the Gates transforms this second shocking revelation into a slow-burning emotional earthquake, one that continues to send tremors through Fairmont Crest with every new episode, ensuring that no relationship remains untouched, no secret remains safe, and no character escapes the profound question now hanging over them all: when the gates finally open to the truth of who you are and what you value, will you be brave enough to face what walks out? The weight of Nicole's diagnosis continues to deepen as Beyond the Gates leans fully into the long-term emotional consequences, refusing to offer easy hope or quick resolutions, instead allowing the storyline to breathe in painful, uncomfortable ways that mirror real-life uncertainty, because as treatments progress and setbacks emerge, the illusion that bravery alone can conquer illness is stripped away, leaving Nicole and those around her grappling with exhaustion, fear, and the quiet terror of waiting for results that could change everything with a single sentence. And this waiting becomes its own form of torment, one that seeps into every interaction, turning ordinary moments, shared meals, casual laughter, even silence, into reminders of how fragile time has become. Nicole's struggle begins to affect her sense of identity as she confronts the loss of independence that once defined her, the humiliation of needing help for tasks she once handled effortlessly, and the rage that flares when people begin to speak around her rather than to her, reducing her to a diagnosis rather than a woman with opinions, desires, and unresolved dreams. And it is in these moments that the show delivers some of its most powerful scenes, allowing Nicole to voice the resentment and grief society often expects patients to suppress in favor of constant gratitude and positivity. The strain also exposes fault lines within her closest relationships, particularly when differing coping mechanisms clash, with some clinging desperately to optimism while others prepare emotionally for the worst, creating heartbreaking arguments where love is unmistakable but alignment feels impossible, and Nicole, caught in the middle, is forced to mediate her own illness just to keep peace, a cruel irony that underscores how deeply ingrained her role as caretaker truly is. Meanwhile, secrets that have nothing to do with cancer begin to surface under the pressure, as characters realize that postponement is no longer an option, leading to confessions that feel reckless yet necessary, including admissions of past betrayals, hidden resentments, and long-suppressed truths that threaten to shatter relationships already stretched thin, proving that crisis accelerates not only healing but destruction. The hospital staff, once background figures, become recurring presences whose quiet compassion and professional detachment add another layer of realism, reminding viewers that while Nicole's pain is deeply personal, it is also part of a broader human experience, one that unfolds daily beyond the spotlight of Fairmont Crest's drama, grounding the narrative in something achingly universal. As Nicole's physical appearance changes due to treatment, the show does not shy away from the psychological toll this takes, exploring her struggle with self-image, intimacy, and the fear that she is becoming unrecognizable not just to others but to herself, leading to scenes where mirrors become adversaries and reassurance feels hollow. And yet these moments also open space for deeper connection, as those who truly see her begin to prove that love is not conditional on strength or beauty, but on presence and honesty. At the same time, the looming question of prognosis hangs over every storyline like a storm cloud, never fully addressed yet impossible to ignore, creating an atmosphere of suspended breath where joy feels both precious and dangerous, because celebrating too fully risks tempting fate, and despairing too deeply risks surrendering before the fight is over. Nicole's journey also sparks a broader reckoning within the community, prompting other characters to confront their own neglected health, unresolved trauma, and unhealthy choices, subtly expanding the impact of her story beyond individual tragedy into collective self-examination, reinforcing the idea that one person's suffering can become a catalyst for change if others are willing to listen. As episodes progress, the narrative becomes less about survival statistics and more about emotional truth, about what it means to show up even when you are afraid, to love without guarantees, and to find meaning in moments that may not lead to happy endings. And in doing so, Beyond the Gates transforms Nicole's cancer diagnosis from a shocking twist into a profound, ongoing exploration of vulnerability, resilience, and the cost of always being the strong one. With each passing chapter, the audience is left not with answers but with questions that linger long after the screen fades to black, about legacy, forgiveness, and whether facing the possibility of loss can finally teach these characters how to truly live, ensuring that Nicole's story remains the emotional heartbeat of the series, pulsing with sorrow, courage, and an unflinching honesty that reshapes Fairmont Crest forever. As the story presses forward, Beyond the Gates dares to explore what happens after the initial shock fades and reality settles in. When casseroles stop arriving, visitors thin out, and Nicole is left facing the long, grinding middle of illness, the part no one prepares you for, where courage must be renewed daily and hope feels less like a burst of inspiration and more like a discipline she struggles to maintain. And it is here that the narrative grows even more intimate, showing Nicole confronting the loneliness that can exist even in a crowded room, the isolation that comes from knowing others want to help but cannot truly understand the pain that wakes her in the night or the fear that coils in her chest before every scan. And these quiet moments, often underscored by minimal dialogue and heavy pauses, become some of the most devastating because they strip away spectacle and leave only truth. Relationships continue to evolve under this pressure, with some characters rising to the occasion in ways that redeem their past mistakes, offering steady, unglamorous support that proves love is not always loud, while others falter, revealing limits to their compassion and forcing Nicole to grieve not just her health, but her illusions about who would stand by her unconditionally. Particularly compelling is Nicole's growing awareness that her illness has shifted the balance of power in subtle, yet profound ways. As people hesitate to challenge her, treat her with fragile reverence, or weaponize her condition in arguments, prompting her to assert, sometimes angrily, that being sick does not make her voiceless or saintly, a stance that complicates dynamics and sparks conflicts that are as necessary as they are painful. Meanwhile, the parallel journeys of those orbiting Nicole continue to intersect and collide as unresolved rivalries are inflamed by stress, long-simmering jealousy resurfaces, and buried love is reignited by the urgency of now, creating a volatile, emotional landscape where decisions feel sharper and consequences more permanent, and the show expertly weaves these arcs together so that Nicole's battle becomes the axis upon which countless other stories turn. Moments of grace punctuate the darkness, unexpected laughter during treatment, a shared memory that reminds Nicole of who she was before diagnosis, a small personal victory that feels monumental in the face of uncertainty, offering viewers brief but meaningful relief and reinforcing the idea that joy does not disappear in tragedy but becomes more concentrated, more fiercely guarded, as the possibility of remission or relapse looms without resolution. Beyond the Gates resists the temptation to promise outcomes, instead committing to the emotional truth that survival is not a single moment but a series of choices made in fear and love, and by allowing Nicole to remain complex, sometimes hopeful, sometimes bitter, sometimes brave, sometimes exhausted. The show honors the reality of illness without romanticizing it. Ultimately, this ongoing chapter reframes the series itself, shifting its center from secrets and scandals alone to the deeper question of what truly matters when the future is uncertain, ensuring that Nicole's journey continues to ripple outward, challenging every character and every viewer to reconsider their priorities, their relationships, and the courage it takes not just to fight for life, but to live honestly while doing so, making this storyline not merely another spoiler-filled twist, but one of the most emotionally resonant and transformative arcs Beyond the Gates has ever dared to tell.